We are officially at the halfway point of the NFL season. I see legendary quarterbacks clearly on the way out. I see up-and-comers making a stance in the league. I see teams that people thought were going to be at the bottom of the barrel become division leaders, and so much more in between on and off the field. So now that we're at the halfway point, let's review and let's look ahead. Let's talk about week 8 and look ahead to week 9. Desmond, Bryan, and Alex are here. What's up, gentlemen?
How are we doing, everyone?
What's going on?
Good week ahead. Happy Halloween, post-Halloween. And let's start November football, gentlemen. Let's first start with the New York Jets and the New England Patriots. The Jets lose to the Pats 22-17. The Jets, after a 4-game winning streak, they took 10 steps forward, and with this major division loss, I really took 20 steps back. Zach Wilson, boneheaded errors, terrible throws, bad decision-making, 3 interceptions, scrambling and running straight into defenders. It seems our discussion regarding Mr. Wilson was justified. He looked awful when his team needed him the most. And though the Patriots, I don't know if we're going to see them making a deep playoff run anytime soon. Still trying to figure out the quarterback situation there and what they have. Bill Belichick, it seems when he really needs a win, he could pull it off. So to start this conversation and to continue what we said about Zach Wilson, does this confirm that Zach Wilson isn't the guy? And is Zach Wilson the one player holding the Jets back from making a comfortable playoff run?
What have I said the entire season? What did I say last week on the pod? This man is their Achilles heel.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a team like this, what I've noticed is, they're young, but they have veterans as well. You got to time. I always say a good team lasts as long as the rookie contracts. So now we're in this window of, we got to see how good these players are. You only got 4 or 5 years if you get that option. Mm-hmm. Then after that, you got to pay them. And that's when teams start falling apart because they can't keep their assets. This man is not it. You don't have the time to wait around and see if he could do well. You need to move for a quarterback, and you need to move fast. I'm upset that they didn't try to get someone in the trade deadline. I think Gardner Minshew is an upgrade over Zach Wilson a tenfold, and that would have been an easy, late round pick to pick up and bring your team to a possible, 10, 11 wins just by, grabbing a backup quarterback, because Zach Wilson is a third string quarterback, in my opinion.
He's showing it now. And one thing I also forgot to mention at the top, that there have been plenty of trades. The trade deadline was today, and obviously we'll implement that throughout the show. But yes, Bryan, to go on your point, it seems you hit the nail on the head. Zach Wilson is the one holding them back. And this team on paper seems that they need a quarterback, but it doesn't seem that Zach Wilson's it. And if you want to give these excuses, he's been injured, he's been this, that, and the other. It seems that the Jets don't want to look bad picking this guy second overall, and think of the other quarterbacks picked early on or other, and they just, Joe Douglas doesn't want to look bad. I guess that's the tough thing now. And now you have options. What do you do with Mike White? He's on the bench now. Do you do that? Some people said that Zach did so bad that he was benchable against New England. I mean, like I mentioned, this guy looked like a lost puppy. And, I think, does this show what happens when you draft somebody from when you have a team that was independent, they played in the Mountain West, they're in the Big 12 next year, but this guy did not play against NFL talent. Picking him number 2 seems to be disastrous. And, you could have picked Justin Fields, or I don't know if he would have been better in the Jets system, but I think the Jets are really, really having a hard time coping with the fact that they used a second overall pick on Zach Wilson, and he's ironically the one guy holding them back. I'd like to hear the both of you, Alex, Desmond, if you have anything to add on with this.
Yeah, I got something. You want to go first, Alex?
No, you got the floor.
So I poached some stats from some smarter people than myself, and so I want to share them with you because when I heard them, I had to like pause and like write that shit down because I was surprised with actually what I was hearing.
Of course.
Zach Wilson on Sunday, when he was facing pressure or a blitz, he went 1 for 14 with 16 yards passing and went no touchdowns and 3 interceptions when facing the blitz. And apparently this year, when facing the blitz, he's 6 for 41 and he's 0 for 4. So throwing no touchdowns and 4 picks, which is the worst in the league. So this guy is struggling. There's just no getting around it. I mean, he might end up being a decent quarterback, but I think right now when you're in a division that has Tua and Josh Allen, and you're going to be competing with them for the next, 7, 8, 10 years. I mean, this level of quarterback play isn't going to get it done. It's hard for me to say right now if it's Zach Wilson's the problem or if it's offensive scheme, because, Salah's a defensive coach.
People are
maybe they just need to,
Yeah, people are blaming offensive coordinator Matt LaFleur with his decision-making as well.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, is it really just all him? I mean, I think what needs to happen is if I was in that position, I get a new offensive coordinator in there, and if they can't turn it around within a year, then you got to move on from them. But I think, it might be a little premature to get him out of there just yet, but I would say the leash can't be longer than a year.
Yeah, so I'm glad Desmond kind of came in to buffer the center of this debate because I'm closer to what Desmond's referring to. I think that it's way too early to tell what the ceiling is on Zach Wilson. And I do agree, there are some limitations with his body and his throw, and he has an injury history. I think that the first step would be to probably address the offensive coordinator situation because the play call has never been quite respectable in New York. And I think that that's probably the first way to go about figuring out what the situation was. Because if we kind of went down the same road with this mentality, Daniel Jones would have been gone last year, and look how he's turned around with Daboll. So I think that before we jump to conclusions with Zach Wilson, obviously there's concern, there's plenty of improvement, but you don't go 5-3 accidentally through 8 weeks already. And I think that there's plenty of incremental steps that he can make to make changes before we give up on him.
Yeah,
the Jets are definitely missing Breece Hall, though. I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, they brought in Robinson on the trade, which I think might eventually end up being, at least somewhat significant. It probably won't replace Breece Hall. I think he's really dynamic, but as a team, they had 50 yards rushing yesterday, or on Sunday rather, and that's just not going to get it done with a quarterback who's not that great at passing.
Well, and if you're Belichick and you're defensively scheming for this team, and that you're a one-dimensional offense immediately, then it's just taking candy from a child. That's all it is.
And make it embarrassing in that sense. You were saying, Bryan?
So I'll make one more last comment. Do we all remember Josh Rosen? Remember that guy?
Yeah,
he was part of that. He was part of that crew. Is he still in the league anymore?
He's
a third round. He's a third string guy somewhere.
Yeah, practice squad journeyman kind of guy.
Exactly. He was with Baker. He's with the Baker, Josh, Lamar class. You were saying though?
Yeah,
he has identical stats to Zach Wilson. You could say he has 51% completion percentage. Zach Wilson has 55.4. It's near identical. Same thing with TD interceptions and passer rating. Zach Wilson has 70. Rosen has 62. When you see bad, you smell bad, and you have the feeling it's bad, it's bad. Cut your losses like Arizona did, and they moved on. You got a guy named Jimmy Garoppolo who will be a free agent next year, who will not be going back to the 49ers. He's playing on house money right now. Get yourself average like you did with Ryan. Remember Ryan Fitzpatrick when the Jets did well?
Yeah.
He had that good year and they went 11-5. They missed the playoffs. But guess what? You just need to be relevant right now as the Jets. You're relevant right now. Continue to be relevant. Get yourself a quick fix with the draft pick.
I got to push back, Bryan, because I think you just made kind of our point in the counter, which is this is the first time they are relevant. And, you could say it's not because of Zach Wilson, but he's leading the helm in the interim. And I think it's very easy to look back and say, well, he's had a poor throwing percentage and this and that, and he looks, resemblant of Josh Rosen. But there's plenty of guys that have had horrible throwing mechanics over the years that just have routinely missed guys. So I think it's a little too early to give up on it just because it smells a little bad right now.
No, I agree. In my opinion, I can't trust a guy that, they're 5-3 and they won games when he was hurt, and they've relied so much on the run game that I can't judge him because of the way they're running this offense, where I know an automatic plug-in of Garoppolo, regardless of what system is an upgrade.
Yeah, I think my last point on this is that, after seeing the Jets be mostly abysmal for my entire life watching football, I guess I'm giving the kid a little bit of grace, because I'm just like, this organization consistently just like messes it up with whoever they bring into their system. So maybe it's the system messing up again. How many players have gone to the Jets and have their careers basically have been a wash because they were the Jets.
Yeah, with the exception of Curtis Martin, everyone else, Eric Deckers, Braden Marshalls, list goes on and on. But bad juju for the Jets, and doesn't get easier for them when they play Buffalo this upcoming week.
Nope.
So I want to talk about the Ravens and Buccaneers, who had quite the week. So Thursday Night Football, the Baltimore Ravens win 27-22. On the day before he announces his divorce to the world, who breaks our hearts, and we really feel for Mr. Brady, who's no longer with Gisele Bündchen. And, on that day too, losing at home to Baltimore and a Baltimore team where most of the players got hurt in this game. They had no Dobbins, no Bateman, no Calais Campbell. Tough day. Now Tom Brady is 3-5. Lamar Jackson shines again. And on top of that, the Ravens add Roquan Smith from the Bears, something to note. So first, let's talk about Brady. And yes, you have to throw in the gossip in here. Tom Brady, is kind of funny how he's leading I believe he's leading the NFC in passing yards. That's really it. 3-5, had problems keeping his weapons on the field. He looks like an old 45-year-old trying to hold it together. And on top of that, he has his personal life going in shambles. Do we expect Tom Brady to pull off some miraculous internal comeback that, despite him losing his family, he's still able to possibly win his 8th Super Bowl, or make a run, or at least make the playoffs, whatever that can justify this, which has to be the most difficult year personally and professionally. I'm not him, but I mean, it's tough when something you were on top of with your game, it's the reality is catching up to him. And then again, divorcing from your wife of 13 years. Do we think Tom Brady will be able to overcome all of this juju? That would be some 30 for 30 or some mini series on Netflix if you can.
I don't want to watch it.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on how you define overcome.
Say, can he make the team? Can he make this a playoff team?
Yes, 100%. The NFC South is trash overall. I mean, have you seen like the 4 teams who are in the NFC South? I mean, what is the records? It's 4-4, 3-5, 3-5, and 2-6, right?
Good chance you'll see an under 500 team.
So as bad as they've been playing, they're 1 game out, and they already have the tiebreaker over the team that's in first. So and we're halfway through the season. I've seen plenty of teams collapse in the second half, and the Falcons don't even need to collapse. They're just only 1 game up. So I mean,
right?
Watching the Buccaneers play, I feel more of a problem is on the defense than the offense, as strange as that sounds, because you're right. The Bucs, Tom Brady is leading the league in passing yards. So, I mean, like when you watch them on offense, it's not that they don't have talent. It's just that they're somehow not on the same page, which, I mean, there's no guarantee that they will get on the same page. But if that's the only thing that's not clicking, then they're not really like that far away from turning some of those losses into wins, in my opinion. So I don't think it's dead yet. They have the Rams, who are also sleepwalking, coming to Tampa Bay this week. I mean, I like that actually in favor of the Bucs, who against another team who can't figure out what the hell's going on with their team right now. So yeah, I think it's premature to like write this team off. Are they a Super Bowl team? No, but playoff team in that division, yeah.
I'd give Tom Brady credit if he could bring this team to at least the playoffs despite everything around him. And I heard I listened to his weekly podcast, Jim Irsay, on the Let's Go podcast on Sirius, and this guy was pretty emotional. Like, I don't mean to smile or smirk. I think he really, really is upset about what's going on. And if he could just somehow pull within that really is an amazing story. And I hope that some miracle happens, that maybe they get back together. I don't know. We could save that TMZ portion for another day, but I do think that does play a role into Brady's psyche moving forward, and it really does affect the entire Tampa Bay franchise.
And I think that having an extended week, having 10 days to prepare for a wounded Rams team is definitely going to help the morale and boost, things in that locker room. I totally agree with Desmond. Like, it depends on how we're defining expectations with how he's going to, respond to resiliency here, because I don't expect this team. I mean, at the outset of the season, I expected this team to be up, contending for an NFC championship once again, but I have to kind of adjust those, and kind of couch it a little bit, and just kind of, hope for an NFC South title at this point, because they've got injuries everywhere. If you look at their IR, it's longer than, most people's rap sheet coming out of prison. So it's like, there's a lot of stuff going on, but I think that this 10 days to prepare for the Rams will help get things in order. Bryan, what do you think?
I was very disappointed by them today with the lack of trade, trying to make any type of trade really, because in my opinion, it's not even the offense right now. Yes, it's struggling right now because they lost their, I would say, drive extender in Gronk, and they don't have that anymore. So it's definitely hurting them. But this defense is playing piss poor, and it's a knock on Todd Bowles as a defensive-minded guy, to not galvanize this group. This group was known to bring pressure, and they cannot bring pressure, especially now that they lost Shaq Barrett with the Achilles. Yeah. They didn't sign back Ndamukong Suh, who was your, interior rush guy, but also a great run defender, and they're getting their ass kicked in the run this year. And, they're not being creative. Like, there is no reason why Devin White isn't on the blitz. He's the best athlete on that field for them on defense. He needs to become a Micah Parsons type player for this team now, with Shaq Barrett gone. That is a middle linebacker that can play the defensive end. This is a team that needed Bradley Chubb, because, you know what I mean? This is a team that you want Tom Brady to succeed right now. You have to look at his early years on the Patriots. Ridiculous defensive front, Richard Seymour, Willie McGinnis. Like, you need that pressure up front with some good, solid cornerbacks, and to anchor down that, that pass defense. And then the offense his offense runs off of momentum. It always has. And anyone's offense does, but especially Brady's. It's all about momentum, time of possession, and crucial key moments, and he's not getting those.
Yeah.
Right.
Brady's always had he may be the greatest quarterback of all time, but he's also one of the luckiest quarterbacks of all time.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he's always had an absolutely elite offensive line and a top tier defense on almost every single Patriots or Bucks team he ever played on. He's never had a situation like a Peyton Manning or an Aaron Rodgers or a Drew Brees where they had to overcome their terrible defense. Now he does, and he's withering.
And he's always benefited from a down division too.
Yeah,
there's definitely been some ex machina moments as well. Tuck rule, 23-8.
I don't want to talk about
that.
Tuck rule.
Here's the list goes on. Just a few quick words on the Ravens. How much better is their defense now, adding Roquan Smith to the bunch, and especially for a team that's had some very tough games within a touchdown. Tough losses. I think this can help prevent scoring against them. Obviously,
that was a huge acquisition. It shows that they're here to play ball, and they're trying to make a deep playoff push. Because I think that right now, you got to be heavily encouraged by what you saw, or a lack thereof, from Cincinnati the other night. We'll talk about it later, but if you're Baltimore, you got to feel really good about that acquisition after seeing what you saw from Cincinnati, and having questions on that offensive line for Cincinnati.
There's no logical way to look at the AFC other than to think like, if you want to go to the Super Bowl, you have to be able to beat the Bills or the Chiefs. And so
Yeah.
the question is like, all right, do we have the defense that is capable of containing those teams to like under like 24 points, maybe? You know, because that's basically like where you want to keep it at. You can't stop those teams. You got to just contain them a little bit. Baltimore's looking at their defense and being like, nah. So, I mean, this tells me, like, as you know, Alex was saying, that they are invested in trying to win right now because Roquan Smith being the linebacker with the most tackles in the league this year. And then over the course of the last like several years, he's been the best tackler in the NFL. Huge upgrade for them. I'm anxious to see where it goes from here. Ravens are winning this division. They're going to the playoffs. Let's just see how much further they can go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. I'm just very worried about the offensive side of the ball for the Ravens because I personally Lamar Jackson's regressing as a passer this year. I don't know if anyone else has noticed that. Compared to last year, I thought was his best passing season, and this year he looks like he does not want to throw to an actual receiver, and he'd rather do a check down to a running back or throw to a tight end. I see no progression. I watched that game, I have Rashad Bateman on fantasy. Did anyone see how pissed off Rashad Bateman was in this game before he got hurt? Constantly open with no looks. You know, he in my opinion, he plays favorites. Lamar Jackson plays favorites at the receiver position. Devin Duvernay got, I think, like almost 12 targets in the last like 2 games. He hasn't had that in his entire career. And then you got a guy like a 50-50 guy like Bateman and guys like Likely who now have been getting played because of Andrews, or like a guy like DeMarcus Robinson is finally getting touches, but he doesn't read through his progressions, and I'm worried against a good defense, he's going to get absolutely exposed.
I don't disagree with you there, and it's too bad. Another team that could have probably added another weapon in there, especially with their injury problems, but doesn't seem to be the case. But that is okay. So the Bills and the Packers played each other to transition from one quarterback who may have seen his glory days behind him. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers did keep it close, hit the spread, but Bills win 27-17, and the game was closer than they thought it would be. But the Packers offense just does not exist anymore. Bills hit everything on all sides of the ball again, and looks like the Packers are on their way to a 6 or 7 win season. And on this, the Bills added Naheem Hines, though he hasn't gotten a lot of touches in this season for Indy. And they did trade their number 2 pick in Zach Moss. So I thought that was an interesting move. I guess they don't see any potential or hope with him, but whatever. But from there on, the Bills really seem to staying comfortable with what they have, and the Packers are doomed. They did not get a receiver themselves. That's going to piss off Rodgers. Oh boy. So do we put the nail in the coffin for Rodgers? As for me, who's been on camera and on microphone giving his endorsements, it just seems that now as the losers keep stacking up, the confidence is lessened. And with the lack of a new weapon being acquired at the trade deadline, I see them going through the motions from here on out for the second half of the year. You guys agree with me with Green Bay?
Yeah, I agree with you. I've never felt bad for a player before until Aaron Rodgers in this season, because like he really, and I'm shocked because he's an arrogant guy, and like a lot of people just don't like him as
Alex doesn't
individual.
Feel bad for him.
But no, I feel bad for him because he really is by himself with Aaron Jones, and they're just hanging out having a catch and playing schoolyard bullshit, because that's their only option at this point. Like, this is such a rookie receiving room that they're children. Like, I don't even like the image. Like, they just don't know what they're doing. Like, they drop the ball constantly. They run with incorrect routes. I constantly say it. Like, I pray to God that Randall Cobb comes back without any more injuries, and Sammy Watkins gets more play, and they can pull like an Odell Beckham from free agency, because they're going nowhere right now with this room because, and it's not their fault. They're just not ready. You're asking guys to be playoff ready in their, eighth game, and it ain't happening. And I feel bad.
Yeah, I saw, I think it was like Lewis Riddick who was talking about the game the other night. And he had mentioned that Sammy Watkins just could not play on that field. Like he could not get open versus that Buffalo secondary. And this is their depleted secondary where they have, some of these guys are their second string guys. I look at the Packers front office and I have no idea what the hell they're doing. And I've been thinking this for years. I don't think this is just this year. They have one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And it feels like the people in the front office are actually actively trying not to make the team better. And I don't understand what the calculus is here, because like, why wouldn't you surround a player like Rodgers with weapons? But they've let time and time again, like they don't go after people in free agency. They don't go after people in trades. They're not like, they didn't re-sign Devontae Adams. And like, how does that make any sense? Like, why wouldn't you dump the money to make sure that he stays? I mean, like, I'm sure you could figure out a way to make sure that he stays there. Like, how are you going to like leave Aaron Rodgers with like two rookies and then like an old Randall Cobb, like Sammy Watkins who can't get open, and Alan Lazard, who is a number one receiver? It's just, it makes no sense. The Packers have lost the last 4 games, guys. They're going to lose the next 4 games. Looking at their schedule right now, I'm calling losses at Detroit, home to Cowboys, home to Tennessee, and at the Eagles. They will lose all 4 of those games. It will be an 8-game losing streak for the Packers.
Yeah, 100% agree. Now, I before we move forward, with this team, I'm going to enjoy some of my bragging rights talking shit about Aaron for the past few weeks. But I have to push back a little bit, Desmond, on the front office, because we know that this organization notoriously, historically, has not gone for the home run hit with some of their with some of their acquisitions and their deals and stuff. And there was a few deals on the table for Devontae to re-sign. They had fixed on a number, but his relationship with Aaron was a little bit fractured and was repairable, but did not get completed. So I put a little bit on both Devontae and Aaron for not repairing that relationship. And I don't think that there's too much that the front office could have done to intervene with that situation. But I looked down some of the draft, the drafting that this organization has done. I mean, yes, they've gone a little more defensively heavy in years past, but they have drafted receivers, and I think it's just been swinging and misses. So I don't know if it's a lack of effort, but maybe it's just a matter of scouting problems that this team, and this organization has been, shortcoming with. So I think that this organization has, they've kind of been at bended knee for Aaron for many years, and I think that he's very happy and comfortable staying with this organization, through thick and thin, as long as he gets his payday and he gets to take the acquire the success when they win, but he likes to deflect when they lose, and this is just part of that process. So I think that while they go through this tough stretch, he's going to have to look inward and figure out what he wants to do and how long he wants to stay with the organization.
I'll make this final comment. The last time they drafted a receiver in the first round was 2002.
That's fair.
The Dallas Cowboys, when they had Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, Randall Cobb, and Dalton Schultz and Jason Witten at tight end, drafted CeeDee Lamb when they had no defense in existence. You just pick. The issue with the Green Bay front office is they draft for need at positions instead of drafting best available. That has always been Green Bay's problem. You could say they need a receiver, but they've also in those previous seasons where they didn't need receivers really because of Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, they passed up on number 1 guys that you can't pass. You can't pass on a Justin Jefferson. You can't do that. Even if you need a backup quarterback you need a quarterback for the future. You can't do that.
And that's
what I'm saying is the organization's been like that dating back to the Favre years. They're not going to change.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's what I know.
So I guess that for me, it's not that they're absolved from blame. I'm just saying that this is what average fans and commentators and spectators should kind of expect from this organization historically. But I would also say too, like they've had second round picks, and this position particularly is notorious for being a dime a dozen, similar to a running back position as well.
I agree. I just see in the last few years they've just passed because they've tried to draft on necessity at other positions because they thought that Aaron would make anyone great, and you can't pass on 5-star recruits like that. You can't do it.
I agree.
And that's what they get. That's what they get.
Yep.
And, you know, not much really to add about the Bills. Bills are the best team in football, and they keep adding to it. And,
Yeah.
you know, they'll get another good win against the Jets.
I would, real quick too, before we move on, I would only argue that that game was even close because of the 2 turnovers by Josh Allen. I thought if you look at the first half,
that was a killer in the end zone.
that first half looked so starkly different. It looked like a pro team playing a college team. I swear to God.
Yeah, you know, it killed your fantasy like me. That was and
No.
Wait, you had the Packers defense?
No, I had Josh Allen. I needed the funny thing. I know no one really cares about fantasy, but you know, me and Bryan made a trade. I gave him Allen Lazard. He gave Bryan Robinson, and we both screwed each other.
Oh yeah, Allen Robinson is hurt, and Bryan Robinson. Bryan Robinson went right back to running back by committee in Washington for no reason, even though he gets yards. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I have Antonio Gibson. I just didn't start him this week, and if I did, I would have won. I only lost by 7 points, but there you go. That's how it is, right?
Sucks, guys.
Let's talk about other things that pissed me off. New York Giants got straight up outplayed by Seattle, losing 27-13. It was 13-all in the fourth quarter at one point, but it seems like a classic Giants game from the past few seasons. Daniel Jones turning the ball over, Saquon Barkley only getting around 50 yards. The lack of receivers really, really sucked in this game, especially. And Seahawks just showed that Geno Smith is unstoppable, and the rookie class for the Seahawks is stellar. And for the one team, Seahawks thought, oh, it's slow for them. And then DK Metcalf comes back. This Pete Carroll, you know, earning more of his strides for his Hall of Fame status for that. Though I'm not too worried about the Giants. We have a bye week. Then we have 2 winnable games after until our big game against Dallas on Thanksgiving. But you cannot have that. Let this be a fluke game and it doesn't happen again. Or we might be going back to reality to know that this roster that is not that good on paper, when they play against a franchise that is so much more advanced, then you really see the true weaknesses of the Giants. So it's a tough place to be in for this big blue team. If they won, momentum would be as high as it can go, but we've definitely had a dose of reality this past Sunday for Big Blue. So before we get into the Seahawks and how impressive they are, the Giants, you guys agree with me that this might be a result of reality settling in?
Had your worst game as an offensive line unit with 29 pressures and 5 sacks. You can't win a game like that. You know, we saw that with Joe Burrow in the beginning of the season, getting his ass kicked, and that's why they have the record they have now. So, you know, it's just an attitude adjustment for that offensive line. They need to, hone in, in the bye week, look at their technique, see what they could pick up on and stuff like that. They're young. They're going to make mistakes. And especially against a Seattle defense that just has the pedigree of technical skills over the last decade because of Pete Carroll. It was a hard matchup for a young group like that. So I expected them to lose.
Yeah. That was a bad game to bet for someone like me, when you really knew that the juju, this was a game where the juju and bad karma could definitely hit, and it did, especially when we were in it for most of the part, but we didn't run away with it when we needed to. And the killer not acquiring a big receiver. And I mean, it's tough because the Giants, nobody expected the Giants to be in this position, that they may need to be a buyer. People really thought they were going to be sellers. There was talk about Saquon being traded, and it would have made sense if you're going into a complete Dayball and Shane regime.
Right.
But what am I going to say? Oh, you're winning too much? They're just in a whammy situation. And I guess they're going to try to make Darius Slayton a top 10 receiver in this league. And Waddell Robinson, who was non-existent last week. Cody Bellinger's hurt. Not Cody Bellinger. I can't think of his first name, but Bellinger, the tight end's hurt with his eye socket injury. And it's a weird place for Big Blue, but we still winning. But I don't know. This is weird. This is weird.
You know what? Let me I said in last week's episode that if the Giants beat Seattle, that I would buy stock in the Giants. I am definitely buying stock in the Giants after that game last week. Because I think just trying to look at the whole picture. I think, sometimes as fans, you get caught up and you think like, oh, like,
sure.
Look at our record. We should be this, we should be that, we should be buying, we should be, thinking like, let's go out and get a receiver. I think I have a little bit of realism. The Giants have been trash for a long time. And now you are 6-2. And I'm looking at your schedule, NFC East teams. We have easy schedules this year. Let's not front about it. We got an easy schedule coming up in front of us. The Eagles do, the Giants do, the Cowboys do. I think the Giants are going to be just fine. They took a Seattle team who is underrated by most people who don't live in the Pacific time zone. Excuse my language. Like if you don't live out here in the West, like everyone thinks like, oh, Seattle, no one thinks about that place. It's not the East Coast, but like they have a great team up here. And I think playing in Seattle is hard for anybody. This game was 13-10 going into the fourth quarter. It was just the fourth quarter that got away from the Giants, really. And the Seattle Seahawks have a great just like coaching identity. Like they will out scheme you, they will outplay you. Geno Smith, for instance, like next gen stats. I mean, they cover so many stats these days. They said that he is the most accurate quarterback in the NFL right now, as far as when they look at passes that are supposed to be on target. And I'm not sure exactly how they define on target, but apparently less than 10% of Geno Smith's throws this season have been off target. That's the best in the NFL. So, I mean, the Giants went up against a really good team. I think they played really well. I think the Giants still make the playoffs. I don't think there's any room to panic here. And you might not be a great team this year, but the Bills haven't been a great team every year. I think they've just gotten here this year. I think the Giants need to like think about this as like a multi-season kind of ordeal and not like we need to get to the top this year. Like you want to start here and just build up.
Right. And
Absolutely.
Take advantage of both the Gettleman and Daybell guys who have matched well, and it's led to wins. And moving forward with that, I think we should go for house money. And that's why it's not, I did just say I was cringing about not acquiring a receiver. But if it would cost such a major cap hit, like if it was Brandon Cooks, who would cost $18 million guaranteed on the cap, that's not helping your rebuild whatsoever. Jerry Jeudy, I know the Broncos want a lot for him. So maybe in the moment I'm cringing at that, but I know deep down it's the right move, and we're just playing from house money from here on out. It's like if we just to quickly compare to other sports, Atlanta Braves in 2020, the year before they won the World Series in 18, 19, 20, they'd win divisions and nobody expected them. And then they just built off of that and look what happened. So definitely had a schedule for a good reason. And Big Blue, baby, will take the week off and definitely have to go 2-0 in these next 2 weeks. So that will be a problem. Now let's make fun of Alex and your team. Las Vegas Raiders, Alex. They lose 24-0. They got shut out from this defense. I mean, reckon they do have some huge all-stars on that team and Pro Bowlers and all pros, but 24-0. Oh man. They say somehow keep momentum alive. You made Andy Dalton look like the old Andy Dalton. Devontae Adams. What a killer. And now Derek Carr's talked about being traded. What are you going to do now, Alex?
I would just sit everybody that's starting for at least a week just to punish them. Look, I was watching this game. I was like,
and no, Kevin Harlan was calling it for you to at least.
Yeah, that was the only bright spot. That was the only bright spot Sunday at 1:00. So I was watching this and I'm like, all right, they're getting out to a slow start again. And then I'm like, oh wait, another turnover. And then another turnover. I'm like, I'm gonna have to turn this freaking game off. And lo and behold, I came back on the couch and it's in the second half and they're down 24-0. I'm like, oh, McDaniels, you just dug your own grave, man.
I was going to ask, you must be really furious, though. A lot of people are not happy with McDaniels right now.
The way they've lost these games, losing by 5, losing by 2, losing by 1, they're all tight situational games where the coaching, it comes down to the wire where it's dependent on coaching. And routinely, time after time, I've given him the pass in the first 5-6 weeks of the season. I can't do it anymore. This guy is an entire... He's just an embarrassment. He's had plenty of time in this league to, win over people in his coaching career. And I think that the reason that he stayed on the sidelines in a cushy, offensive coordinator job in New England is because he knew that he couldn't take the noise. So with that being said, like, I'm gravely disappointed in this team and their inability, their inefficiency on offense. To produce more than they have, but I have to put it at the feet of McDaniels instead of Carr, because I knew going into the season what Carr was going to be. He was going to be high risk, high reward all the time, a minimal ceiling, but kind of a game manager savant that was, ingratiated kind of as the identity of this offense. But under the tutelage of McDaniels, it's unwatchable. It's absolutely unwatchable, and it's a disgrace that they've been able to waste these many weeks with this much talent.
Well, sucks to suck. I don't know what to say. Well,
that was my last Raiders game for the season.
You're completely done. No more watching, huh?
I'm not watching one more. I have PTSD from the last 7 weeks. I'm done.
All right, going out of protest here. Do the Saints deserve any respect from this, or are they just they're just lucky to be 3-5 in a very weak NFC?
Saints offense puts up points every. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bryan.
No, you go first, please.
The Saints offense puts up points every week. I mean, I don't know if this team is ever going to be a playoff team, but I mean, if you got fantasy players on the Saints, they're gonna put up points for you every week. I mean, I'm just looking at it. I mean, like, you look at just the Saints, how many points they score. I mean, aren't they getting like over 20 almost every single week, with the exception of, I think, 2 weeks? So, I mean, Andy Dalton, he's never going to be your championship guy, but I mean, he always puts up some numbers. The Saints are I don't think the Saints are going to the playoffs this year, but they're going to be competing in every game. So I think it's one of those, like, they're a trap game every time you face them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you this, though. Andy Dalton just won starting quarterback for the rest of the season.
Yes, that's
true. He did.
Yeah.
No doubt in my mind. Shame on Jameis Winston for letting that happen. This man, Andy Dalton, has not been the best in the recent years, but he's consistent. He's a game manager. He does what they need to do for them. I would have liked to have seen Alvin Kamara get traded. I'm a little disappointed
big surprise on that one.
Like that, for a team like this that's not going anywhere in the near future, like, that's a good asset to just get rid of before you have to pay him, and get some picks.
He is definitely at least worth one first-round pick, I would think.
That's what they asked for him, actually. There was reports going around that the Saints actually approached the Eagles, and they offered Kamara to the Eagles for the first-round pick that they actually gave to them for the Gardner-Webb trade.
And still said no, huh?
I'm surprised.
We don't need a running back.
Miles Sanders is good.
I'm surprised that Buffalo didn't make a move either.
Yeah.
No.
Having a dual back like that, I mean, that's some real value.
Yeah, I guess they only wanted to give up a second rounder, which is why they got Nyheim Hines, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think the best team would be the Ravens. Alvin Kamara on the Ravens probably.
Yeah, with their issues, but nope, he'll get to watch him in the Superdome for fun. The Panthers and the Falcons. The Panthers had a game-winning touchdown at one point. DJ Moore goes in, and then takes the helmets off. The unsportsmanlike conduct penalty pushes the extra point 15 yards back, and then Pinheiro misses the field goal that would win it in overtime as well. But that is just unexplainable on that one. Falcons are leading the division now with that, and for punishment, DJ Moore stays with the Panthers, I guess. He would have been a great person for any team needed a receiver to pick up, and they're just as messy as it could be. But PJ Walker looks fun sometimes. But yeah, the Panthers literally gave a game away. How about that?
About that.
Yeah. I'll tell you this.
Go ahead, Bryan.
Good like PR game for like the NFL on like its farm system with like, getting XFL players, PJ Walker, resurgence of Marcus Mariota, like Deontay Foreman, who was like a second rounder to the Texans out of nowhere, goes back to back 100-yard weeks. Like, it's good PR. You got Damian Bird, who hasn't been relevant since like the Cardinals since 2016. Like, it's good to know that people could, you pull them out of anywhere and they could still play ball. So, kudos to the NFL for keeping people's careers and kids' dreams alive in this game.
Bryan, you know what this game was like? This was like your old Italian grandmother who just takes all the scraps that are going bad in the fridge and makes a stellar dinner.
Yeah, this was stew.
Well,
I mean,
on nose.
I don't know, man. I think the Falcons. I think if the Falcons win this week, they are definitely going to the playoffs.
Marcus Mariota.
That's what I feel about this. If they beat the Chargers, their next 4 games after that are the Panthers, the Bears, the Commanders, and the Steelers. I mean, that's a 6-game winning streak.
That's
in
a
my
great
mind.
lineup. Yeah, he's 6th in QBR right now.
He's playing great. Like the offense, Atlanta's offense is fantastic.
Yeah, he has to drop on the interception ratios, but he's doing decent.
So I know we're not in the business of giving out superlatives because we got bigger fish to fry on the show, but I did bring it up and I wanted to get bragging rights on this and come back to it. But week 3, I was giving a little love to Arthur Smith. Can we start throwing him in for Coach of the Year if they keep this up?
I agree.
Absolutely. This guy, this team is not where they're supposed to be.
A few candidates above him, but I'd put it. I mean, I think it's going to Daboll.
Well, I put Pete Carroll above him.
I'm not putting him in the driver's seat.
I was going to say Pete Carroll's also on my list, but I mean, he could be top 5 out of 32.
Yep. And then the coach in Minnesota too, for sure.
Even the Miami coach, McDaniels, we got a lot of players right now.
I think there's a lot of up and coming young coaching talent, just period.
Yeah.
I personally am biased. I think it should be the Eagles coach, but I mean.
And I'm biased, and I could say Dallas because we won 4 straight games with the backup quarterback. But
that's a fair argument. That's a fair argument. The Cowboys have looked good.
I think with Sirianni though in Philly, and I don't want to hang on this point too much, but I think that was really just a home run call from Howie Roseman in that front office because they were really at a crossroads where they still had some kind of shelf life with that roster when Doug Peterson left.
You know what? The reports that I didn't know at the time, but the reports came out that the owner actually wanted Jalen Hurts and Doug Peterson didn't want him. And I guess that friction ended up leading to what led to Peterson actually leaving. Well, them asking him to basically not come back. And usually whenever you see owners getting involved, you're kind of like the Knicks, not typically a good thing for the franchise, but worked out for a change. So that's cool.
At least we're not the Nets right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's facts.
What a joke that story is. It really is.
Hilarious.
Broncos and Jags. Broncos win 27-17. They snapped their grueling losing streak. Russell finally had a decent game. ETN shows how dominant of a running back he can be and when he hangs on to the ball as well. I think Jacksonville is good, but they just can't close out games. And I've said this 2 weeks in a row now, but they made some moves at the deadline. They add Calvin Ridley coming off of his gambling suspension, which is another stupid thing that happened. But Broncos fans, this is 1 week where they are not looking for Nathaniel Hackett's head and Russell Wilson making fun of him. But regardless, do you think that the Browns can keep this up, beating on a good Jacksonville team, but can they continue this momentum?
I'll go first. The answer is no.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
It's a big no for me. I mean, I think looking at the schedule is important. That's why I keep doing it. I think their next game is going to be in Tennessee. I know that they're going to have like a week and a half to prepare for this. They're going to have 2 full weeks to prepare for this game. But I think that Tennessee is a far superior team to them. And then they have a division game against the Raiders after that. I think these are back-to-back losses for the Broncos. I think the Broncos were right to be sellers at the trade deadline. They made a mistake. Still, time will be determined if it's Russell Wilson or the coach, but I'm leaning that like whichever way you go with it, they're not going to be a playoff team this season, and I don't think they should be thinking in those terms anyway. Russell Wilson is not panned out, and we're already halfway through the season. It's not looking good for them.
Yeah, no, I think this is more of a fluke win, if anything. I think, and you keep hearing these reports about how this team really doesn't like him, and the continuation of the Seahawks too. And I mean, this is a game you get excited. You're in London, the UK fans just happy to see anyone coming out there. I think that does play into it, but once you come back to this country in the United States, where you're looked at as a franchise that are just making so many boneheaded decisions, not even this win, where you literally had to go out of this country to take care of it, can erase those mistakes that'll still be there.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. I was impressed. They beat the Jags on their home turf. That was London's home team.
That's funny. Well, no, Russell Wilson should have opened up that spread some more. And,
That's right.
Mr. Unlimited is just, you win some more games before we stop bringing you down.
Agreed. I'll make one point though. This Jacksonville team in free agency after this season, if they make a splash, this will be a Seattle Seahawks like resurgence that we're seeing right now with this team. Like, they are so close to being a very good team, the Jaguars. Like, you could just visibly see it. Trevor Lawrence is playing lights out, even though he had a bad game this week, but like, he's learning. They remind me so much like the Miami Dolphins the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
In like the trials of Tua. Like, this is the trials of Trevor now, and they're putting it together. It's now the defense. The draft should be all defense next year.
Absolutely.
And that division's so winnable. I mean,
easy. Every team's close to shambles.
Yeah, basically. I mean, there's no good team in that division. I mean, even the best team, Tennessee, I mean, they're not like a great team. They just do a few things really well, and that's enough to win the division every year.
Tennessee is one ACL tear in Derrick Henry away from losing every single game for the rest of the season. And I'm not wrong.
No, not at all.
He should be MVP every year because he is the definition of most valuable.
Talk about a case study for CTE after his career. This man is going to be a mess.
Sad, hard truth on that one. But as we move on, I want to talk about your team, Bryan, the Cowboys. The Cowboys really had a true beatdown against the Chicago Bears. So let's discuss on this one. Cowboys forced turnovers on defense. The running game was explosive. Dak was dominating. A good classic momentum, a game where you get your momentum back against a much weaker opponent. Chicago at 3-5, though. I don't think that really reflects their record, but they did add Chase Claypool to the mix. And I guess this is a move to show, can Justin Fields do it with a legitimate receiver now? So before we talk about Bryan's Cowboys, let's talk about this big trade from the Bears. Chase Claypool goes to not a playoff team, but a team that is really struggling, and a playoff team really could use him. But I guess, like I said, the Bears might want to see what Justin Fields can do with a legitimate receiver. Do you guys read it that way as well?
For sure.
I was really shocked by that trade.
Yeah.
Like, I thought Claypool was like a target for a lot of teams. I didn't think the Bears would be the team to get him.
Who would have thought they were buyers out of anyone?
Yeah, I was just like, I saw them sell, like Robert Quinn, Roquan Smith, and I'm like, all right, they're selling right now, trying to build up assets for the future. And then they turn around and get Chase Claypool. I'm just like, it just felt a little out of left field, but like, hey, if you're believing in Justin Fields and you want to put talent around him, unlike the Packers, there's a team who's actually trying to put weapons around their quarterback. And so, like, yeah, it makes sense. And I think Claypool has had to play second to Deontay Johnson the last couple of years in Pittsburgh. So it'll be nice to see what he can do as a number 1 wide receiver now.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Pittsburgh because I think this trade actually says more about Pittsburgh than it does Chicago. I think that they really like what they see with both Johnson and Pickens, and I think that Chase Claypool, I think if you actually run the tape back and look at some of the missed opportunities they've had the past 2 years with him, I think that they were probably just trying to get that asset off the books.
Yep. And do we think Justin Fields, if he can somehow make Claypool his right-hand guy, do you think Justin Fields has at least earned another year as a starting quarterback for Chicago?
I think what we've seen. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
He earned my respect this game. I'll tell you that. I've been a harsh critic of Justin Fields, and he took a beating and he took it well, and he still put up good numbers, 17 to 23, 151 and 2 touchdowns. I'm excited because of Claypool because I think I'm going to say and admit it, I'm wrong on Justin Fields, and he's just been constantly dealt a bad hand, and I want to actually see him do well now after him watching him take such a beating by Dallas.
Yeah, I wanted to say something similar, that I called him a bust a few weeks ago. And I think that was an incorrect statement because obviously what the bust was how they were using him. And as they've made the adjustments the last 2 weeks, we're seeing an explosive offense come out of Chicago now. And I'm just like, it's almost an indictment on Chicago as an organization that it took them this long to figure out how to use the guy. But thankfully they're figuring it out now. And yeah, I think that if you can put up good amount of points on a Dallas defense and a Patriots defense, who I do not think are terrible defenses, I think you got to just pull more weapons around the guy and see what he can do.
Totally. And I think that this is definitely more an indictment on the Bears organization because they're like allergic to offense. They have been since even pre-McMahon days. So I think this is just more an indictment on the Bears. I'm not giving up on Justin Fields just yet.
Absolutely. And for the Dallas Cowboys, they didn't make any moves. But does that mean that this Cowboys team is going to be okay and they're going to make a deep playoff run now? Is Dak Prescott clearly going to be a second half whiz? Bryan, like the Cowboys fan, tell us what you think of this lack of moves and where it's leading to.
Yeah, so I'll start with the game first. I was worried about this game. Desmond thought that Dallas was going to do exactly what they did, and I was worried about this game. And to be honest with you, if you take away the Micah Parsons fumble TD and a few, lucky breaks from Pollard, this was a close game in the beginning. The Bears did play well against Dallas, and I was correct that losing Jordan Lewis in the slot cornerback was going to haunt us because I did see them get exposed consistently in the slot by Mooney and Dante Pettis, getting a couple of key catches here and there. They're great on the defensive front, and they've been a number one defense in the league for a reason. They're going to have hiccup games, but against teams like the Bills and Chiefs, they will get. I'm worried like a Juju Smith will go for 8 catches and $120 because of our now injury liabilities at that slot position. And our cornerback room has always been a little weak outside Trayvon Diggs. So I really wanted them in the free agent market to hit up a cornerback or, even pick up one like Chris Harris Sr. is still a free agent this season, and it makes 0 sense. In my opinion, there's no reason why we don't have Brandon Cooks on our roster because we easily could have traded the picks we got back from Amari Cooper that were lowballed. I don't know how we even made that trade for Amari Cooper from the Browns. We could have offered that for the Texans and took a player that, in my opinion, is the same caliber as Amari Cooper. I would say even better because he has fewer drops. Brandon Cooks, he's just more consistent because he's been in the league longer for less money than Amari Cooper. So that would have been an automatic upgrade in the receiver room and really would have put the nail in the coffin, in my opinion, for Dallas definitely making the playoffs. I still think they will, but I think they'll be a wild card team. But yeah, I'm aggravated by that. They could have made moves, but Dallas had a solid game, and the bye is going to be very good for us. I think we need to heal up a little bit on some injuries.
All right.
Yeah, it's a matter of getting healthy too, for sure. But I think the reason I feel comfortable about predictions with this team is that you guys already have a recipe in place to win. It's about, relying heavily on that defense and, play action with Dak is the backup to a strong running game. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree with that. My only issue is what happens when our run game gets shut down, because it's gonna get shut down, and then we look like we always do against the Buccaneers, and then that's when we rely on Dak, and that's when Dak becomes Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I think Cowboys got a really good shot at being the 1 seed this year. I don't want to drool over the Cowboys, but it's coming from a place of almost like respect a little bit. I think the Cowboys are the most overhyped team every single year. Single year.
Absolutely.
And then this year it feels like it's deserved because I think the team is actually that good for a change. Looking at it right now, they have, games at Lambeau and at Minneapolis in the next 2 weeks. Well, their next 2 games. I mean, I think if you come out winning both of those, I really do think that this is going to be a team that's going to take a lot of momentum into that Thanksgiving game against the Giants. And if they win that game as well, I think they show up to the game with the Eagles on Christmas Eve at 12-2. So, I mean, I think the sky's the limit for the Cowboys right now. They seem very complete, minus, a couple receivers because their passing game's a little suspect sometimes. But yeah, man, the Cowboys look great this year. I think, they finally deserved the hype.
Yeah, I think they were underappreciated this offseason just because of the question marks, which is rightfully so. I'm just still not sold on them because of how weak the schedule is, and I need to see them. I wish they played the Bills in the regular season because that would be the test. I like my defense is going into the playoffs unchecked besides the Eagles, and I don't even count that as getting checked because we always play good against each other.
Yeah.
Each quarterback always scores 3 touchdowns on our defense, and you
get up for the rivalry games every time.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it's like we're gonna go into this playoffs unchecked, and then the 49ers are gonna wash us. That's like my fear.
The Minnesota game will definitely be must watch November 20th. But if you're Kirk Cousins, all the ghosts from years past will be coming out because it's a 4:30 game. So watch out.
Ooh.
Especially if it gets flexed.
Yeah, it might get flexed.
Yo, why don't we talk about another NFC East team that has been making some noise, and let's focus on the Philadelphia Eagles in a battle of Pennsylvania. Eagles rout the Steelers. Hell of a game for the Eagles offense. AJ Brown, 3 touchdowns. It doesn't get any better than that. And before we talk about the Steelers, who are trying to figure out what the hell they are, and I really want to spend a few minutes specifically on them, but with the Eagles here, are we now convinced that they are a top NFC team at least? And I'll give it to the Eagles fan wearing the jersey. Or no, still
as of today, the Eagles are the best team in the NFC. I mean, the NFC is weak this year. We might not be the best team in the NFL, but playing the way we are, I don't think there's another NFC team that I would say is definitively better than us. I am a little worried about Cowboys, Giants, 49ers, maybe the Seahawks, but that's about where the train ends. I mean, and I don't think that any of those teams are better than the Eagles, but they may be able to compete with us. We have a complete team. I mean, this team is going to go as far as Jalen Hurts goes. And as of right now, he is playing mistake-free football. And that is the most important thing that I could ask from him right now. And what I was really worrying about at the beginning of the year was his ability to play in the pocket and his ability to actually stretch the field. Can you throw down the field and actually make the defense defend us at every level? They've been able to do that. And I like where we're at right now. And I think that the Eagles have a solid chance of getting into the playoffs as the 1 seed with maybe 14, 15 wins.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I could see that going on too, especially in this breakout year for Jalen Hurts. Wow, some good stuff on this one.
And he's my fantasy quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Not miss that one.
Well, another thing with you, Bryan. Are you nervous about this Eagles team as the team that with the Giants figuring out what they still are, and the game in December, when they play each other twice in December, that'll be the true test. But at least for the Cowboys, who may have the best chance in this division, at least to bring them down, comparing them talent-wise, are you worried about the Eagles at all and them running away with it?
I'm not really worried. I think regardless, I think we'll win I think we'll win the second game against them this season. It's a possibility that you guys are just undefeated still at that point, and you might start resting players for the playoffs. So I'm hoping on that. But I also just think that Dallas is getting more mature on defense and more explosive. So barring any more injuries, I think we'll win again, but I don't think we'll end up seeing you guys in the playoffs just because it would have to be in the NFC Championship, and I don't think that Dallas would make it that far. But to be honest with you, I think Philly's the best team in the league, and I think they would. I think they put 35 up on the Bills right now. I think they would absolutely destroy the Bills. I think Philadelphia's one problem will be not in the NFC, in the AFC, in the Ravens, the Titans, or the Chiefs. Chiefs just because overall well-rounded, and I just don't like your team against the run.
I thought it was a big deal to add Robert Quinn. So
I thought, that's your pass rush guy, but I'm still worried about your interior just because Fletcher Cox gets mid-season injuries now throughout the last couple of seasons, and he's getting old. And like, if you guys, it's not going to happen, but if you start Derrick Henry actually, you guys played him this year. I think you guys played the Titans, right?
December 4th.
Yeah,
that could be a game.
That could be a bad game. That could be like a real self-evaluation of your defense.
Yeah.
Yeah, my best friend's a Titans fan, so we already got plans to go watch the game together.
No, it's good.
Sick.
Yeah. But it's their Super Bowl to lose.
So for the Steelers now, even with TJ Watt coming back, it seems like the Steelers are just riding it out and seeing if Pickett could be a starter long term. And you know what? If you go off of this game, he should not be starting long term. 191 yards of pick and sack 6 times. I don't know if we could say Kenny Pickett has earned his spot in the starting role yet. Do you guys feel the same way?
Agreed.
Yeah.
D stinks.
They're stuck with them because their alternative is
right.
Mason Rudolph, but or Trubisky. So yeah, they're kind of stuck with him for right now, but he's not showing anything great, but I guess neither did Peyton Manning his first year.
Yeah. Or Josh Allen, it's gradual. I think this team they need a coaching adjustment in the offensive side of the ball. I think Matt Canada is killing this team, and I think they really need to have some offensive line help, and then they'll start actually being able to evaluate Pickett. There's just too many question marks across the offense for him to handle.
He makes bad decisions, and I really do think that's just I don't know if that's going to change over time, but as of right now, like he just doesn't go through his progressions the right way.
Oh, I think he's doing that because I think the offense is getting shut down before the play is happening. I think he's trying to manifest a first down on every play because they're not helping him. They're not helping him. When you have Ben Roethlisberger in an interview make fun of your offensive coordinator, like that should tell you there's a problem.
Oh, the pain. It's funny. I think this season especially, not to get too deep, but when you just see so many people year after year after year succeeding, the Bradys, your Mike Tomlins and coaching, Rodgers, it really does show you that life really does come around eventually. You could only win for so long. Bill Belichick is another example. And I think the Steelers, especially with Mike Tomlin, who's never, I think only once went 500, but has never had a losing season since he took over in after 2006. And well, it teaches you people, don't get too cocky, be humble.
What does the NFL stand for? Not for long, because it's not even just that you have, a regime that lasts 10, 12 years, but it's the fact that it can evaporate so quickly without the right pieces and the right formula.
Yeah.
Oh, well. So the Dolphins and the Lions, guys. The Lions continue to be lovable losers, but as we talked about last week and the years prior, man, Dan Campbell is getting one long leash. again, the game, another momentum game for Miami. The game was close. Lions had a 2-touchdown lead to start it off, but Miami runs away with it. Tua dominates 326 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Nobody's talking about his concussion issues on Sunday, with Waddle and Hill making big strides. And like I said, with the Lions, enough is enough. But Dolphins now add Bradley Chubb from Denver. You add him with Phillips and Ingram, and the Dolphins clearly are a much better team. I think they are the best winners out of everybody who made moves in the trade deadline. With Miami winning and beating up the Lions when they needed to, do you guys agree with the fact that the Dolphins now could be a serious contender in the AFC after these moves they made, especially with adding Bradley Chubb from Denver?
They just put the Bills on notice.
Yes.
They literally they grabbed Bradley Chubb. He walked in the door and they said, go egg this guy's house. Happy Halloween. That's what they just said. They said, we're here to play. Bills, and the Bills should be terrified right now because Josh Allen does not do well in a shootout yet. He hasn't mastered the art of the full gunslinger yet, being able to win these shootout games. And Tua can. We've seen Tua do it this season. This is now, in my opinion, the most wild card, frightening team in the NFL now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think they've definitely solidified themselves as the biggest wild card in terms of shaking up the AFC, because I can't necessarily put them ahead of, Kansas City, Baltimore, Buffalo, but I think they're right there in the conversation, just a step below them.
Yeah, they're not consistent on either side of the ball, offense or defense. But when you have the offensive weapons they have with Waddle and Hill is actually on pace right now to actually break the single season receiving record. I mean, you can't really go into any game feeling comfortable against them. So, I mean, they may not be the best team week in and week out, but I think if you put them against any team on any given Sunday, they might win. So, I mean, I'm excited to see what's going to happen next with them. Their schedule is actually really easy coming up. So, I mean, I think they could win the next 5.
And I'll say this, what I really love about this team is that they have veteran experience that's gone to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They got Hill, they got Mostert. Yeah. They have guys that are I've done this before. This is what you need to do.
Join rookies. With me, hop on my back.
Literally, rookies, shut up, play ball. We're not going out anymore. It's week 14. It's cold out. Even though we're in Florida, it's time to start doing film and learn. This team is in a position to make moves.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. How about the Vikings at Cardinals, though? I think the Vikings have put in teams on notice, especially in the NFC. This clearly is the second best team. Minnesota is the second best team in the NFC. Minnesota wins their 5th straight. Very good football. It was close, but Arizona could not top it off. I think the big thing to take out of this is on the final drive, in the final play, Kyler's on midfield. This dude stumbles right at midfield. And for a guy who's criticized about his lackadaisical nature, if his head is truly into it, where you get to a point where you can't even chuck it and you have one of the best Hail Mary receivers in DeAndre Hopkins out there, that was bad. Really, really bad. And now they added T.J. Hawkins. It's a hard word.
Hawkinson.
Yeah, T.J. Hawkinson, the tight end from Minnesota. So
Detroit.
Sorry. From Detroit to Minnesota. So they now have a legitimate dump-off option since the first time since Kyle Rudolph. I think as we talked about teams to put on notice, this is the one with Miami. Dalvin Cook is staying healthy. Thielen and Justin Jefferson are one hell of a duo. Pretty good offensive line as well. Kirk Cousins, I know he's easy to make fun of, especially on primetime games, but we hope that this guy has essentially the practices, and when it does get flexed, that he can win a big game for Minnesota. And let's say he doesn't, could have got to move on from this guy because he's gotten so many chances. This very nice, goofy quarterback who, if you want a good YouTube view, watch his High School Musical clips. They're hilarious. But anyways, for focusing on the Vikings on this one, Vikings, why aren't they getting as much love as the Eagles, or as we mentioned, the Cowboys or any other winning teams? I mean, they're 6-1 now. They are pretty dominant. Why not the love for Minnesota?
They play in the cold.
Yeah, maybe.
Lack of media exposure, to be honest with you.
Probably lack of media exposure.
Yeah.
I think it's because also two people have couched their expectations getting disappointed by Kirk Cousins. And I think the shortcomings have kind of let people kind of stand on the sidelines and be like, all right, let's see. But, I just want to say the last thing with just kind of the opener here. I think they have to be in the conversation up there with Dallas and Philadelphia just for the NFC.
I think they're the 5th best team in the NFC right now. The 5th. I think that they are. I think that we giving them too much credit for that record. I truly do. And I think that, after, I think 4 of their next 5 games are extremely challenging. Having to face the Jets, the Patriots, the Cowboys, and the Bills. I mean, we'll know who the Vikings are made of, what they're made of pretty soon here. But as of right now, man, I think that the Vikings are kind of massively overrated. They've had an easy schedule so far. They've barely beat some of these teams that they were up against. They've had to have comeback victories against the Bears. They got shelved by the Eagles. I mean, that's why they're not getting as much love as them, because they played horrendously in that game. I thought the Vikings defense was just giving Jalen Hurts first down after first down after first down, playing this whack shell coverage the whole game. And Kirk Cousins consistently folds. He's not a new quarterback. He's been in the league for a decade now. We know who he is. And so, yeah, I see a 6-1 Vikings team. I think they'll go to the playoffs. I think they'll win this division, but this is not a juggernaut team. I think if you put them on the field with like San Francisco, Seattle, the Giants, the Cowboys, or we've already seen the Eagles, I think they lose to all of those teams.
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't disagree more. Not because I disagree with your assessment of Kirk Cousins, because I think that this team can only go as far as he takes them, particularly in conjunction with O'Connell, who's a rookie, head coach. But I think they're far better than I think they're better than San Francisco, to be honest with you. And I think that they may have had an easy schedule thus far, but I don't put a lot of stock in the Patriots, and I don't put a lot of stock in the Commanders or the Jets. So I could easily see them coming 3-2 out of the next 5 games.
I'll make this comment. They're at the 2nd seed right now, and they'll probably stay at the 2nd or 3rd seed. If that's the case, the 3 teams that they're probably going to see are Seahawks, Giants, 49ers. Like Desmond said, and I'd be terrified of Seattle right now if I was them. I'd be terrified of the 49ers just because of the amount of weapons, because the other defense is playing well this year. But I also have to remember, in the last previous years, they're an old defense that has been lucky to not get hurt yet. Pat Peterson's what, 75 at this point? If he's gone, there's no cornerbacks on this team. It's that, and they get abused in the passing game all the entire season. Really, they just luck out that their offense can keep up with other teams.
Yeah,
they're very fool's gold to me. They're fool's gold.
I agree.
Yeah, I understand that, but I also think, to be honest, I think Seattle is fool's gold, and I don't say that with any joy, because I like kind of the comeback nature of this team and this franchise with Pete Carroll losing out on Russell Wilson, letting him walk. I think they're very easy to root for right now, but I think they're far more fool's gold with having Geno Smith almost playing an aberration kind of type season out of nowhere.
Let's clip that. Let's come back to it the first week of December.
Yes.
Yes.
No, seriously, that would be great. That would be great, because I will happily eat that if they go on a run.
Hey, it'll be here before you know it.
We should do that for an episode. Clip all our hot takes that went ice cold at the end of the year.
Oh, and there are more than a few on that one, but that's why we love it.
Yeah.
And people definitely remind us for it, but we appreciate it.
We appreciate it, fans. Thank you.
Monday Night Football had the Browns oust the Bengals. Now, it was weird because I saw a lot of people say pick the Browns, and I was like, really? And I wish I did. And they also who would have thought there? But the Browns defense just annihilates Burrow and the Bengals offense. The offensive line clearly is still a major issue for the Bengals moving forward. Jamar Chase was definitely missed in Cincy. But Chubb is the man. Cooper looks good. Brissett, clearly in his boomer or bust year, continues to keep Cleveland at a competitive record. They have him for 2 more weeks after this game. And they have him this week, next week, and then we know the transition there with Watson. But the Browns, anything? Did you guys expect this to be such a blowout as it was?
I didn't expect a blowout, but the Joe Burrow has not beaten the Browns in his entire career.
That's right. He's 0-4.
Yeah.
Wild.
And the Browns have won 5 times in a row. I think as fans appreciate how important division games are in certain divisions. I mean, I think it's in every division, for being honest. You know, like you play the same teams again and again. They don't have to scheme for you so well because they know who you are. They know what your tendencies are. They know what your weaknesses are. And some teams just have the better of you, just bad matchups. I mean, I think that the Bengals defense is not great against the run. Every time that they're facing a good running team, they get whooped. And Nick Chubb is the second best running back in the NFL. Yeah. And the Browns offense has been playing great all year. They've only had 1 game where they weren't competitive. I mean, they have 5 losses, but in each of those losses, they were 1-score games with the exception of the Patriots game. So, I mean, this is not a bad Browns team. And so I'm not surprised that they beat the Bengals, but that final score was a little shocking.
I'll tell you guys.
Them.
I'll tell you, this is a botched season by the Browns. Like, I'm happy for this win, but like, shame on them. I'm looking at their record right now. They lost 1 point to the Jets, by 3 points to the Falcons, by 2 points to the Chargers, by 3 points to the Ravens.
Yeah.
And they have a hard stretch right now in the next 3 with Dolphins, Bills, Bucks. But after that, they have an easy schedule. Like, they're probably going to lose against the Miami and the Buffalo, right? They'll go to 3-7, but they could easily, sweep every game after that. Ravens might be iffy and walk into 9 or 10 wins. Like, this team, I expect could pull off a wild card with some help, but it's a shame that they didn't click more earlier in the season because they would be a lock for probably, I would even say, the division.
They might
now
be.
with Deshaun Watson back, like if he comes back to, I would say, half of what he was in Houston, this team is going to be scary. Because look at what Amari Cooper's doing with Brissett right now, who is more of a conservative quarterback. And you get an Njoku back and healthy. Donovan Peoples-Jones is coming into his own. Like, this is going to be a scary team to face if they get like a 7th seed in the wild card.
And I think this team is plays and is galvanized by Stefanski. I think they've had a bunch of shenanigans in years past, and I think that Stefanski looks like one of the young minds that's like really going to run this team for a while. I agree with everything you guys both said, and it is a shame to see kind of these first 7-8 weeks go to waste for Cleveland because they've been competitive in all these games, and they essentially really are just a kind of a quarterback clinching game performance, winning game winning drive away. Sorry, I had my words mixed together, but I think that when Deshaun comes back, he's going to be inheriting what I think is kind of a playoff roster already made, and I think that it's hard. See, I don't want to read too much into the Cincinnati loss because I think that a lot of this was just poor offensive line play. Burrow looked under duress all night, but if I have to grade it, I think scale 1 to 10, I think it is a little more concerning than just kind of a blind spot in the division, because I think there's a lot of things to clean up. Having Jamar Chase out of the game, that's definitely concerning. You want to get him back healthy, but I think they have some things to really address if they're going to win the division.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, dude.
I want to make one statement really quickly here in the essence of wanting to have more hot takes. The Bengals will not make the playoffs. I guarantee it. They will
Agree.
not be one of the 7 teams from the AFC.
Boy, that would suck for Burrow trying to get a new contract. So if he wants to get paid, get these wins. 2 more games to go before we make our picks. The Commanders, the NFC East is good. Give credit to this Commanders team. They're 4-4 right now. Watch out. Another huge win off of Indy. Gibson's underrated, and he made the moves as Bryan made the point. Went back to running back at committee. Seems Gibson's getting more of the touches. McLaurin is good when you need him to be. Huge game-winning touchdown for him. How about Taylor Heineke? Time to stick with him. Focus on Washington here, and then make fun of the Colts. Heineke, is he the way to go? Even with in time for Wentz to come back, I say he is. I mean, he started a playoff game. Keep him in it. They definitely have so many hills to climb if they want to make the playoffs. But Washington, how about them so far? Even a very impressive, I would say, 4-4 after 8 weeks.
Their schedule is really not that bad. Like, they can sneak in the 7th seed, and like we were just talking about the Vikings, like this Commanders team could beat the Vikings in a playoff game, like, or come close to, like Heineke did against the Bucks. What was that, like 3 years ago? Like they're the weirdest team in the league, that they're bad but good. I never understand the Washington Commanders. Like, the defense could be elite. They have the offensive weapons. They just, for some reason, I think it's just the dysfunction of the organization in the front office and the owner that really, handcuffs these guys. And it's a shame, because this team, that's why, if you notice, Ron Rivera is not getting fired. I think they all know that he's a capable coach that can make this team a playoff team. It's just they need to get rid of the dysfunction.
Yeah, especially with what's lingering over their head with all the Dan Snyder stuff right there.
Washington Commanders are the New York Knicks of the NFL, only they have a less passionate fan base.
And when they win, they come out when they win, but when they lose, they definitely leave.
Yeah, they're silent. No, I'm agreeing with you with the one thing you said, that you have no idea what's going on with this team. I agree with that 100-fold. Like, does anyone know what's happening with this team? I don't know what's happening with this team year over year. It feels like it's just like incompetence is like the phrase of the Washington football franchise. It's just, you never know what they're doing. They never seem to have a plan. And I'm grateful for it, because it's just one less, team that's I have to deal with in my division who's good. But as far as the Taylor Heineke question is concerned, he's a big upgrade over Wentz, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, talent-wise, again, I think I've said it all along. I think Wentz has all the talent, but he just can't seem to figure it out up here. And Heineke seems like he may have less talent, but he's poised. He's a leader. He doesn't seem to get phased in big moments. He's got a connection with the people on the field, in the locker room. I think it gives you the best chance of winning. I don't think this is a playoff team, but I think that they're at least more competitive with Heineke on the field.
Well, I think they took a chance on Wentz as a last resort, for his sake. But I think they're definitely far better with Heineke, even if the ceiling is low. But I think, all in all, if you look kind of back at who they've played, all things considered, their defense is not terrible. They've kept, a lot of teams, the Bears at 7, the Packers at 21, Titans at 21. It's a lot of tight games, and I feel bad for Ron Rivera, because I think he is a stellar coach, and he's, had a lot of adversity in his personal life with cancer and his health, but also in terms of just instability, both in Carolina and in Washington. So I think that, this team is a mixed bag, and you don't know what you're going to get, but I think there's a lot of promising assets under the leadership of Heineke if they can keep riding with him.
Yeah, I'm Team Heineke, even though I don't want him to beat the Giants, but I think it's a cool story there. And as for the Colts, Indianapolis Colts, Ellinger's first start of the season, 17 for 23, 201 yards, 0 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor, only 76 rushing yards. Whoever drafted him first in fantasy got duped, got played, bamboozled. Oh, man, what a terrible drop-off after a stellar season last year. Non-existent. And the Colts fired their offensive coordinator today. Looks like bad things coming in Indy, guys. What the hell happened to the Indianapolis Colts?
Age and injuries. That offensive line used to be pristine, and they lost people to injuries, free agency, and age, and they can't get the run going, and they've relied on an old quarterback, another example of age, and Matt Ryan with a noodle arm, and they put all their stock in that, and this is what happens. But Ellinger played efficient.
Oh yeah, efficient. What have we got?
Efficient.
Well, we'll take that.
Boring team to watch.
Yeah, they are, and Michael Pittman. He's not making you dance or go crazy. You don't see him on the highlight reels. Though I like Alec. What's his name?
Alec Pierce.
Alec Pierce has some potential.
Yeah, he's nice.
Yeah, for Cincinnati, he's good.
He's what Hunter Renfrow was supposed to be.
Well, and outside of Darius Leonard, it's like, who else do they have on this defense? Like, because as a Raiders fan, when you see ex-Raiders on this team, that's going to be a shit show of a defense. They have I think they have 3 or 4 former Raiders on this defense somehow. So you can clearly tell that they've kind of piecemealed this roster, like Bryan said to his credit, of an aging team. So they're going to have to do some serious retooling, because I think their window is kind of closing before our very eyes in terms of playoff wins.
I think they need to rebuild. I think they gotta just sell.
Yeah, I think Frank Reich is a lame duck coach at this point.
Yeah, they gotta sell.
Yeah.
I think it also comes to the bigger picture of, we really can't spend so much money on primetime great players when you want to try to make an average team, because I'm looking at the defense of the Colts. Star players. You got Yannick Ngakoue, who I wouldn't even call a star. I call him a good player. Stephon Gilmore, great player. Shaq Leonard, great player. DeForest Buckner, great player. They paid all 3. Where's the other 8 guys on the defense? You know what I mean? When you pay top tier for 3 guys, you have to fill in with the draft average or good players, or you're going to get this result.
Defense hasn't been the problem for the Colts, in my opinion. I mean, just looking at final scores from each one of their games, I mean, they're not really getting blown out in any case. I mean, especially you look at the Chiefs result, 20-17 there, but going across the board, they've been holding almost every offense, at least somewhat in a manageable position. The Colts offense just can't produce anything. It's almost unwatchable. Watching the Colts play offense this year, and they've got to just blow that thing up and start over.
Bye-bye.
I agree with that. I remember from this offseason, all the defense talked about was how it was going to be a top 5 scoring defense in the league, and I haven't really seen that. Well, I don't see the turnovers.
I do, real quick before we move on, that's what I kind of wanted to clarify with my comments about the defense. It's not that I'm shredding particularly their entire defense as a whole, because they have kept this team in games that they have no business being in, with their offense being so bad. But I think that, you look down the list, and outside of a few players like Buckner, who's 28 years old, they don't have, they're kind of 1 or 2 injuries away from really having a real piecemeal roster.
Well, peace out, homies, on that one. Tough days in Indies. What are you going to do? Final game to discuss. Take it back to West Coast again. The 49ers with a beatdown against the Los Angeles Rams. And pretty much was, even though the game was in LA, it was a home game for San Francisco. Without Debo, 49ers go in. Christian McCaffrey shows his value when healthy with a touchdown reception, a touchdown run, and a touchdown pass. Wow, the 49ers really clicking. And that Christian McCaffrey move, they'll do anything to make sure he stays on the field. And as long as Jimmy G put people in the right positions, he might not get you major fantasy points, but he will get you wins. It looks like the Rams are officially in shambles. I mean, this is what happens when you trade a lot of your pieces for the long term. for the short term and don't have any long-term options, especially the few you've made. Bobby Wagner's been fine, but Allen Robinson looks like he doesn't even deserve to play football in the NFL anymore. Really, really bad stuff. Do we consider the 49ers a top team in the NFL? We've been back and forth with them, but does this game against the former champions make it official?
I mean, in my opinion, the 49ers' major weakness is, they're missing some key players on the offensive line. So if they're facing a team that has a strong pass rush, then Jimmy G's an average quarterback. He's always going to be an average quarterback. That's how you beat this team. If you can't get a pass rush on the 49ers, yeah, they're one of the best teams in football. I mean, like NFC or AFC. I think they have the talent at almost every position to be a great team. And I would be scared to face them in any circumstance. I think they're dangerous. And yeah, I think this could be a Super Bowl team.
They've been especially in the Shanahan era, too close with no cigars and some tough playoff losses. But could this be the one team that makes it work? Bryan, were you saying something?
Yeah, they just have too many weapons, and I would say where they have failed previously, I would say is because of the lack of the ability to be a balanced team in the run game. The only reason why we have Deebo Samuel as a dual threat now with the running game is because they didn't really have a running back to really, be explosive. And now that you have Christian McCaffrey, you go into, let's say, a playoff game and, Jimmy G does get, handicapped because of the pass rush. Guess what? You have the ability for a guy to extend plays in the run. I think that's very key on them now. They can be balanced, which will then open play action, which is, in my opinion, Jimmy G's, where that's his bread and butter. That's a very Patriot-like offense where he grew up in as a young player. And when he went over here, when he does play action, he succeeds. So I think that has to be their formula.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I can't disagree with anything you guys said. I know I was talking out of my ass earlier about Minnesota and their competitive hierarchy, amongst the NFC teams. But the reason that I can't go to the great beyond with San Francisco, why I can't put them in the Super Bowl, vibing for the Super Bowl in the NFC is because I can't get there with Jimmy G. I think it's going to continue to be the elephant in the room to the remainder of the season. Again, I love everything about this team, offense and defense. I think they're well balanced. They have a great run game now, in addition with C-Mac. And when you get Deebo back from the hamstring, whenever that time may be, you already have another layer of explosiveness. But and a credit to Kyle Shanahan too, because he dominated the second half, 21-0, shutting him out. Like that was just a statement game for a team that has already dominated the Rams, but really cemented and said no, this is you guys are our bitch. So I don't have any doubts with this roster with San Fran. It's just I can't hook my name with Jimmy G going to the Super Bowl again.
Hey, man, the only contrary to that is Jimmy G led his team to a lead in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl. You don't think with the extra experience and the better weapons since then, you still don't think he can, win that fourth quarter and win it all?
Frankly, I mean, no. And actually, if we're just gonna break down the tape from that Super Bowl that they blew, I think actually more responsibility, bears at the feet of Kyle Shanahan in that particular instance. But I think looking back, if we're gonna, assess this team and how far they can go, I think in this particular context for the season, I think it's more about Jimmy G and the questions that remain with him. And we'll see. He could totally prove me wrong. I could eat more crow.
I think this game was more about the Rams than it was the 49ers, though, because the 49ers have beaten the Rams, 10 times in a row now in the regular season? 10 times in a row? That shouldn't even be possible. But, here we are, Rams losing to the 49ers again. I'm not picking the Rams to beat the 49ers anytime in the next few years.
Yep.
But yeah, man, the Rams are in shambles. I think they got a punt on this year. I think it's not a matter of like, oh, we're like one player away or we're like one scheme away. It's like they are an inferior team to all these top teams in the NFL right now, and they got to just, I think, embrace the fact that they're not going to the playoffs this year.
I'll
say
I was just saying a real dent for Sean McVay's career so far. It's been
Yep.
stellar, but
yeah, absolutely.
losing season is not looking good. You were saying, Brian?
If I'm them, I might actually be looking to draft a quarterback in this draft. There's a lot of quarterbacks, and like I'm really not liking Matt Stafford right now. He's not looking good, and I think age is going to catch up on him with injuries because the way he got his ass kicked in the beginning of his years in Detroit, and now with the injuries with his elbow and stuff like that throughout the season, like I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to get the heir apparent now.
Hey, I don't disagree
agree.
with that. Especially, Matt Stafford, borderline Hall of Famer statistically, did win the Super Bowl he needed. You could go and flip a coin either way there. If this is it for his career, he's had a stellar career and a lot to get a lot of credit for. If it is time to get the new person in line.
And in fairness too, like we haven't really seen Sean McVay like what he looks like with his guy, because he inherited Goff and then he brought in Stafford as kind of the exchange to get them over the top. But it would be interesting to see kind of like what the mad scientist would come up with if he had his way. So
yeah, dude. Yeah. All right, upsets, whimpers, and thrillers. One thing I added in Desmond, when you make your picks, if you could include the spread, that'd be great. If you don't have it, I have it in front of me as well.
Oh, we're doing the spread now?
No, just saying this. You make your picks, but I'm just saying the spread in general.
Oh,
So
okay.
you don't have to pick the points, or you don't have to put that in your pick per se. I'm just saying if you could just address the spread of what it is, but make your pick after that.
All right.
So why don't we start with you? Upsets, whippers, and thrillers. Week 9, the true halfway point. And first week of November, 2 months to go, gentlemen. Where are we starting off with your upset this week, Mr. Price?
Oh, actually, let me go third on this one. I haven't had time to look through the schedules yet. Let me
No worries,
come back to me. Come back to me.
I'll start it off with this. And my upset this week, I think Atlanta goes over the Chargers with Miami 5-point favorites. I think Atlanta, not to essentially steal your point from about half an hour ago, Desmond, because you did say it first as well, that if Atlanta wins, you put stock into them if they defeat the Chargers coming off a bye. But momentum's on their side. When you have good weapons like Kyle Pitts out there for the tight end position, you're making all these young guys look really, really good. I think for a Chargers team that has had such a mess, especially defensively, it's going to be hard for them to keep up. And Atlanta will show why maybe they are the ones winning the division in the NFC South.
I like it. For my upset, this is probably a popular one for you guys, but I'm going to take Detroit defeating Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, I'll have to defer to you for the spread. I haven't looked at it.
No worries. So for that one, Green Bay is only a 3.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I think that's being complimentary, because I think that Green Bay is in a real spiral right now, and I think that Detroit's playing with nothing to lose, and they already hate this team. So I think that this is an easy upset pick.
Hey, historically, Aaron Rodgers has had the Lions number. If he really loses that one, and you get your 6th loss in November, in the first week of November, then and he's healthy too, then it's as slow as you can get from Mr. Rodgers. So, Brian, why don't we go with you with the next one? And then
I think I have the craziest upset of the week, and I have Carolina over Cincinnati. I think it's dumpster fire time. For the Bengals. I think they're gonna fall apart without Jamar Chase, because of when you remove that guy, everyone now is you could double up T. Higgins, you could double up Tyler Boyd, you could force the ball through Hayden Hurst's hand nets now, or Joe Mixon, who's not having a good year. So, I also think Carolina is somewhat like with PJ Walker playing extremely efficient. The run game is,
They are.
to be honest with you, I think Deontay Foreman for the Panthers this season is playing better than the way CMC was playing this year for the Panthers.
Wow.
In a run sense, not a utility, but just in a run sense, he's been grinding more. He's like a mini Derrick Henry. I expect them to pull this one out. They're +7 for the spread. And I think they'll cover it.
Okay.
Man, you straight stole my pick.
God. There's always so many upsets.
I mean, that one's glaring at me. I think the Bengals are going to be like thinking they're supposed to like win that game, and they're going to walk into a Panthers team who's been playing inspired since they got rid of Anderson and CMC. Yeah, so I think you're 100% right. I like that game a lot too, but I will pick a different one for the sake of having a different one here. I like the Commanders to beat the Vikings. Vikings are a 3.5-point favorite. I do not believe in the Vikings. I do not think that they are a great team. I think they are overrated. And I think that they are going to not play that well on the road in Washington against a team who, frankly, knows they're not getting any respect. They're constantly in a stadium where, kind of like the Rams, but not to the same degree, like the road fans come in and they dominate, the home fans. And I think the Commanders are good enough to beat the Vikings. I think the Vikings need to come back down to earth a little bit.
Yeah, 3.5-point spread for Minnesota with those points. No one wants to take the Bills 13-point favorites against the Jets that they're gonna somehow win it.
Ooh.
You would need Joe Namath to sober up and go play the quarterback.
Oh, the funniest, somebody said on the fan, a caller said, and I think this fan is just delusional, the final score is going to be 6-3 Jets. So yeah, the Jets are gonna hold
Maybe if it's
the Buffalo Bills to 3 points. No, and it's gonna be like a historically hot November in the East Coast. So
Nice.
we're in the 70s. I mean,
dude, real quick, my forecast Friday through Monday, it's gonna be 76 here.
Wow,
Insane.
We can talk about those climate change issues for another day on that, but no snow is going to affect that. It's going to be literally an early season game weather-wise, but what the hell? Anyways, the whimpers this week. I think there's a lot of hilarious selections for this. One I picked is the Bills over the Jets. I mean, it's going to be a real beatdown. You have a near perfect team versus a team that could not be more frustrating in the sense that they have talent and they don't really know what to do with everybody, especially the quarterback position. I think Zach Wilson is going to have a problem when you have that team coming at you. They're getting major players they need back on the team. It's going to be a mess. It is going to be a real freaking mess. And watch Naheem Hines having 150 yards on the ground, and Stephon Diggs, he's just gonna and when you played Madden, there was that animation where you put the football behind your back. That's what they'll do when you have Bryce Hall trying to catch them and stuff. It's going to be a mess. That's going to be hilarious and fun to watch.
I feel bad for everyone playing the Bills this year.
13-point spread on that. Alex, what's next? Which game's gonna suck?
You're gonna do me the honors of selling my own team down the river. Vegas going to Jacksonville. That is a turd waiting to pinch out. I will not be watching that game. Just honoring my promise from earlier in the pod. And yeah, I hope to see some real improvement reps from Trevor Lawrence, just out of spite.
Oh man, you are a 1-point favorite in this.
I don't care.
You don't believe. Oh, Bryan, which game's gonna suck?
I think it's the worst game. I like no one could actually. It's probably the two most boring games ever. The teams ever. The Colts versus the Patriots. Like I literally could fall asleep.
If it was only 2005 or something.
Yeah,
All right.
like this is just mundane. Like there's gonna be 50 carries combined. It might be the quickest game in NFL history because they're just gonna run the ball and the clock out so much. Like it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. All I care about this game is I see Sam Ellinger just continue to progress and maybe he'll make himself a little bit of a career. Besides that, no one should watch this game. But I would still take the Colts at plus 5.5. This is like a whimper upset. I expect the Colts to beat the Patriots.
I'll take that.
Yeah, so the Buccaneers are 3-point favorites at home against the Rams. I think that's the whimper. I think both these offenses are inept. And
These two played in a playoff game last year.
And that's ancient history for these two. I don't think either team cracks 20 points.
And you know what would also be
snooze.
I don't know if the whipper per se. I think this would be a great game to do prop bets on when you have the Eagles going against the Texans, which is kind of hilarious because both their MLB franchises from both towns.
I'm so upset about Thursday, man. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Maybe that's a World Series clincher night.
That's what I'm saying. Like, living out here in Montana, I don't get to watch that many nationally televised Eagles games. And like one of the few that's on the schedule this year happens to be the same day as Game 5 of the World Series, man. Like, come on now.
Man.
Do we get to break the surprise for Desmond?
No, don't be.
Okay, all right.
There's nothing. No.
Oh man,
no spoilers.
I didn't say anything. But yeah, that's gonna be a funny one to mention. 14-point favorites. Oh man. Let me say if Houston is the one to start to give them their first loss.
Any given Sunday, you never know. You never know.
Yeah, or Thursday in this sense.
I would be so happy if that happened. I love Houston. That's why, though. They have fight.
How about for the few thrilling games this week? I actually said Washington over Minnesota would be a thrilling game. I really think Terrell Heineke can kill the momentum against Kirk Cousins and his former team. I think despite the 3.5 point spread, Washington's at home. They're off of 2 really good wins, much needed wins. And maybe they catch Minnesota at a bad time and they pull off this huge win and continue to add to the continued dominance of the NFC East.
So.
Yeah, I like that.
Who wants to go next?
Oh, thriller. So someone already mentioned this game, but I recategorized it as a thriller just by virtue of an offensive shootout. But I like Chargers going into Atlanta. I think that's going to be a red hot offensive juggernaut of a game. I mean, we saw what Atlanta did with Carolina. The both teams combined for well over 800 yards of offense. So I think the similar result is going to, ensue in this game as well.
I like that pick. That's a real good one.
Eat it up.
So for my thriller, I actually have the Las Vegas Raiders versus Jacksonville Jaguars on the fact that they both have no defenses, and I expect it to be a big offensive day on both sides. Because the Raiders have to respond on offense after an abysmal game, so I'm expecting Josh Jacobs 35 carries. A bloody nose and a bunch of Band-Aids for him. I expect Devontae Adams to have a big game. I'd love to see Darren Waller come back and actually make some plays this season because he's looking like shit. And then with Jacksonville, the offense is electric, and I just think that they will tear through the Raiders defense. So I expect this game is like a 38-35 kind of game. Very similar to Atlanta versus Carolina.
Okay.
I wouldn't be upset.
I'm seeing like 3 different ones here that I think could be, but I'm going to settle on just one of them. I'm excited for this Bears-Dolphins game. I think that with the Bears retooling their offense a little bit, Claypool coming into playing this week, I am very interested to see what the Bears are going to do for the 3rd time in a row with this new scheme that they got going on. And the Dolphins offense is fantastic. I mean, Waddle and Hill together are the best 2 receiver tandem in the entire league. And the Dolphins are 5-0 with Tua as the quarterback.
Yep.
Oh wow,
So
I didn't even realize that.
this is what happens when you win. You forget all the bad juju and PR, and that's what Miami has been able to pull off. So it should be a good and exciting time for that. But gentlemen, this was a great time as always. We will see you next week, and let's have a good first weekend in November. Desmond Price, Bryan McKeon, and Alex Ranelio, thank you, gentlemen. Till next time, see you soon.